Radnor. I hope you enjoyed the first part of our detective series covering CSI, the Youth Aid Panel, and background investigations. In part 2 of the series, Detective Schreiber and Lieutenant Pinto will share information about electronic crimes, financial investigations, and crimes or scams against the elderly in the Radnor community. Additionally, Lieutenant Pinto will provide a community update on narcotics and how addiction has a broader impact on our community as a whole. We are very fortunate to live in a safe and healthy community like Radnor. However, we will learn in this series how addiction is not a personal problem. Rather, it affects families and communities alike. Thanks for tuning in, Radnor, and many thanks to the RPD detectives who serve us. I'm Molly Gallagher, and we hope these educational series help continue to make Radnor one of the best places to live, work, visit, and do business on the main line. Can you give us your name, your length of time with Radnor Police Department, and your specialty?
Detective TJ Schreiber, and I've been with the department almost 20 years. I specialize in economic fraud crimes as well as mobile device forensics.
Let's talk about schools and internet safety.
Sure.
What is our current relationship with local schools, private sector businesses, churches, etc., when it comes to internet safety?
So we have a great working relationship with the Radnor Township School District as well as our private schools in our area. I do an internet safety presentation. I have presented for the Radnor Middle School, for St. Catherine's and Sacred Heart, a bunch of different private schools. We do like about a 1-hour presentation. We have it geared as low as, elementary kids to high school, and we do have one for parents, which obviously goes into a little bit more detail about what not to do, how to be safe on the internet, and just try to, educate them for this, changing world of electronics. These internet safety programs are free of charge. We offer it, obviously, to township residents and businesses as well. There's no fee. It's just some scheduling needs to be done, and we can go from there.
Can you describe the most common crimes you see in Radnor?
Let me speak on one that's because we're in this season. So there's tax return scams going on, right? April, tax deadline. We've actually seen it where somebody will get a hold of somebody's social security number and actually file the return. That person then goes to their local accountant, or whether they use TurboTax or one of those, they file it, and then they're going to get a message from the IRS, you've already filed this return. So when we get that, we obviously encourage you to make a report with the Radnor Police, and then we work with the IRS, and we send that usually to them, who specializes in that. Some of the other scams now, because you have your coronavirus relief, that is tied to your tax return. So while we've been alerted to it, we haven't seen one yet, but that also can be rerouted into different banks, and people are expecting to get these checks from the government, and they never show up.
Has COVID impacted your work in general? Have you seen a shift in crime?
We've seen, overall crime is probably lower because more people are home, so I think it's probably less likely that a burglar is going to break in. They want to break in when nobody's home. Everyone working from home. That being said, financial crimes are on the uptick. People are hurting for money. People are out of work. It's been almost a year now, right, that we've been going on this, and so financial crime is on the uprise.
Okay, so if you fear you're a victim of this type of financial crime or electronic crime, what are the actual steps you should take to get help?
So the first thing you should do is obviously make a police report. I recommend getting a credit monitoring service, whether it's one of the Experian, Equifax, or TransUnion. They all have them. For a small fee per month, you can actually monitor your credit. If you apply for anything online, if you're in a store, it'll send you an email, hey, somebody just checked, your credit was just ran by this bank or this store. I recommend everybody doing that. I recommend everybody monthly checking their credit accounts to make sure nothing is fishy there, whether or not an account's been opened that they didn't open themselves or know about. And obviously, if you see something, then you would want to make a report to us.
How has cyber and financial crime changed over the last 10 years, or even as long as you've been a detective? What changes?
Right. So my big thing is it's on the up and up. It's the cell phone, the mobile device. Now people are walking around with basically a computer. All right. So 10 years ago, I think we were on the iPhone 4 when I first started getting into cell phones. Now we're on the 12. So you're walking around with literally a computer in your hand. Everybody does everything on their phone. So it's easier to just get on the internet, to basically to scam people. There's apps now where you're going to get a call from somebody claiming to be from the Social Security Administration. They'll use another number. They'll spoof the number, and you get this call from it. It looks like it's coming from Wayne, PA. Well, here it's somebody in Jamaica. acting as somebody else. So it's just technology has helped criminals. We've been seeing, literally, if you want to say phishing, we've been seeing mailbox phishing where literally they're going to a blue mailbox late at night, particularly late at night, on like weekend nights when they're more full than normal. They will actually fish. They'll put like a rat trap on a license plate, literally fish with like wire down into the mailbox just to take letters. They're opening up the mail and they're getting checks. And then say you're sending a check in for your electric bill. Well, now they're going to take your check, copy all the information on it, the routing number, the bank account, produce a fake one with all your information, and then they're going to go start doing bad deposits. So my recommendation, and this is actually, I had a case with it last year, my partner has a case currently right now. My recommendation is hand that bill to your letter carrier or walk it into the post office.
Do you think there's a part of your personality that is drawn towards this type of work versus a true 9-to-5 civilian job? Is there an adrenaline or a thrill that is associated with being a police officer?
There is. I mean, it's different when you're in detectives. When you're in patrol, you kind of go, you handle, you move on. At 7 o'clock, your day ends. At 7 o'clock, our day doesn't end. We handle on call. You might get a major case that you're working through the weekend. You go to sleep at night, you're like, oh, I have this, and this to do. I have this person coming in. So it's more like a business job than patrol officer would be. But obviously we dress in suits for a reason because we do things that we don't want people to really know we're the police all the time. So it's kind of a good mix. So it's kind of like the little bit of a thrill of police work, but more of the 9-to-5. You're here 9 to 5, you're not on shift work. So.
Okay, Joe, can you please tell me how long you've been with the Radnor Police Department and your specialty?
Absolutely. Molly, I've been with the Radnor Police Department now for over 25 years. I've been specifically signed to the Narcotics Unit and the Delaware County Drug Task Force for the past 9 years. I've been in charge of that unit since I was a sergeant, and after being promoted to the rank of lieutenant 2 years ago, I kept that under my command, so I still run that unit at this time today.
What are some of the factors that contribute to drug abuse in our community here in Radnor?
In Radnor, the biggest reason we see for drug addiction in our community, unfortunately, stems from the epidemic of prescription pills. Whether you are a young high school athlete who was injured and were prescribed painkillers to get through a knee injury or a shoulder injury, or you're a soccer mom who happened to have a teeth drilled and the doctor gave you Oxycontin to get you through the pain. All too often we see those people advance onto drug addiction, the use of pills, the abuse of pills, and then quite frankly it becomes too expensive and they can't afford it anymore, and then they move on to more serious, harder street drugs, whether it be the heroin, the fentanyl, or the methamphetamine and the like of that.
So here at Radnor, if it's a young student athlete or a soccer mom, does the police department serve as a resource for people in need? If someone is struggling with addiction, can they reach out to us, or is there a better avenue?
We are a full-service police department. If you come to the Radnor police station with your hand out asking for help, we're going to help you. We're going to do anything we can for you. But that being said, we are not drug addiction specialists, and we don't know how to treat addiction. So ideally, if you are someone struggling with addiction or know someone who is struggling with addiction, there are far better avenues for you to go to and pursue. But that's not to say you can't come here, and we will do what we can, and we will find phone numbers for you or contacts for you or resources for you that we will try to point you to get you the help that you need and want.
So once someone has been prescribed an opioid for an athletic injury or dental health like you described, what's the best way to prevent addiction? I mean, if we're talking about kids, should parents monitor the usage?
Absolutely.
Okay.
First of all, the prescription guidelines now are much different than they were early on, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
But if you find yourself, you're in a situation where your child, and if they're living at home, I don't care if they're a juvenile or not, but if they're living in your home, I would strongly urge you control the distribution of that medication. And you make sure, just because it says you can take it 4 times a day, you take it when you need it, not when the prescription says you can take it. And when you're done with it, it's not like an antibiotic. When you're done with it, you get rid of it, okay? Right here in our police station downstairs, and then police departments all over Delaware County, we have a bin where you can walk in, no questions asked, and drop your unused prescriptions in a box, and they're destroyed. They make sure they don't go in our water supply. I know that's a big concern nowadays, and you get rid of them. Don't leave them in your medicine cabinet and just forget they're there, because it's a temptation to kids who are curious and they want to try things. Or God forbid you have someone that is in addiction and then you're just feeding their addiction.
Moving on to the Delco Drug Task Force, can you talk about the Radnor Township Police Department's relationship with the task force and also with the DA?
Yes, the relationship with the Drug Task Force, I can't undersell how phenomenal it is. We started this 10 years ago. If you recognize, I was only 9 years. I was not one of the founding members to be signed into, much to my regret, but I was shortly thereafter. We started out with 2 officers, and what that means is those officers have full-time patrol duties here. They're expected to work their full schedule, their first full-time job, and anything they do narcotics-wise is done on an overtime basis. It requires big-time dedication and time, both on them and their families.
And lastly, can you share any kind of positive story or reflection on your time here at Radnor and what makes Radnor the right police department for you?
What makes Radnor the right police department for me is the ability to follow through. I spent a lot of times in patrol, and I spent a lot of time pushing a police car. And people think, oh, it's Radnor, there's not a lot. We're not the busiest police department. We're not the city of Philadelphia. We're not Upper Darby. We're not Norristown. But we have our share of stuff. But what's nice about the volume that we have is that when it's done, there is downtime, and I can follow up with people and see how they're doing and see if they made a difference. I mean, and the story that comes to mind, and I will remember this for a long time, is we had a young lady from a very affluent family, wonderful parents, loved to death, perfect traditional American family, had everything. And she just was struggling, whether it was personal issues or private issues, and she was going down a wrong path. And I had the ability to contact her on a couple times, and the first time I was able to give her a break and maybe just let things go. But the second time I did. I had to arrest her, and I did arrest her, and I did handcuff her and fingerprint and photograph her. And she spent the night in jail. She didn't go to jail, she didn't go to prison. But fast forward later, I still once in a while, I get emails from her, how she's graduating from college, and she thanks me for these things. And I still see her parents from time to time when they're out on their late night walks, or they'll come in every once in a while and they'll make a donation to the police pension fund or the canine fund, whatever it is, and just thank me for something that I did in the course of my day, just doing my job. And they're the things that you get from being a Radnor policeman that I don't believe you can get from a lot of other departments where you just don't have the time or the energy to be able to follow up like that. So.